straight ahead, got my head in the game with the red light on. I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Okay, so I've hesitated to speak about any of the latest incidents that have been happening with Queensland Police. Obviously, I've spoken several times about the amount of shootings that we've had, uh, the data that's coming through that shows that Queensland Police shot and killed more more of its citizens than all the other states in Australia combined, states and territories combined, between, well, in the year 2022 to 2023. That's data that came through from the ABC. Uh, you hope that these things are just one-offs. We have just a bad spate of things. Um, Everything just, all the stars aligning, and these are just the things that are all going wrong all at once. I happen to think that some of it is to do with training, a lack of experience, the way that QPS now hires people, having a lower standard for its recruitment process, for the new recruits that they have. You hope that this is just data and it's just one off. This is just a bad time. But more shootings are coming through. More shootings have been happening. And then the last week, it's hard to even comprehend how many shootings we can have, and we still, the hierarchy aren't making announcements saying, hey, maybe we need to rethink the way we're doing things. I get it. You can be faced with dangerous times, dangerous people. People are showing less respect for police, for authority. I think a lot of that's been brought about because of the way police across the nation have treated people, not just police, but the way the politicians, but the way authority in general have treated the people. And unfortunately, this has caused some elements of our society to decide that they need to push back, uh, using violent methods. But there's other things that are also happening. There's a report that came out, and just earlier this week, and it's very unsettling, the information that it gives, in regards to the how Queensland Police have handled a different investigation, and how the standards of this investigation have been completely unsatisfactory. So this headline here came out from ABC News a couple of days ago. It says that the judge found police probe into a home invasion in the southeast Queensland suburb where Vilene White was killed was entirely unsatisfactory. Entirely unsatisfactory. Reading through this report, anyway, here, we'll go through it together. So, a Brisbane judge found police bungled an investigation into a suspected home invasion by a group of teenagers in the same southeast Queensland suburb where a grandmother was allegedly stabbed to death by a 16-year-old last week. This is the grandmother that was killed, down around the Ipswich area by a gang of, uh, what are they, African youths. So, the unsatisfactory investigation into the terrifying 2021 home invasion contributed to the chief suspect being found not guilty, according to a finding by Judge Vicky Lowry in the Brisbane Children's Court last year. The damning findings call into question criticism by the Queensland Police Union on the state's judicial system as being responsible for failing to curtail youth crime. Could I put it put it out there that perhaps it's all of these things coming together, failing of the police system, our police service, but also a failure of the judicial system and a failure of our government. Union President Ian Levers mounted the extraordinary attack on the judiciary after 70-year-old Vilene White was allegedly stabbed to death by youth in the Redbank Plains shopping centre. The ABC has obtained a Brisbane Children's Court judgment which revealed an investigation into the home invasion at a Redbank housing estate in October 21 was entirely unsatisfactory. The May 2023 judgment by District Court Judge Vicky Lowry KC reveals police failed. Yeah, I read this. I don't know. I don't understand how they've done this, but police failed to obtain key witness statements and conduct forensic testing on a suspected weapon. Seriously, I got no idea how you do this. How you fail to get key witness statements. Anyway, Judge Lowry also highlighted how one officer stated she was unable to obtain a statement from a key witness, and this is a quote, because it was too hard with her rosters. What the flip? Seriously, how was that an excuse? How is this officer an officer? Yeah, believe it or not, you actually do have to put in a lot of work and a lot of effort. And if you want to get witness statements, if you want to gather evidence, you have to put in the work. It doesn't just come and fall in your lap. You have to go out there and knock on doors, go and chase people down. So the investigation was picked up by a second investigator after 9 months had passed. She said, that's ridiculous. Judge Lowry said the failure for police to undertake some of these tasks made positive identification of the alleged offender impossible, giving her no alternative but to find them not guilty. She said in her judgment the prosecutor had conceded it led to an inference adverse to the Crown given the state of the evidence. Queensland Police have previously told the ABC that they cannot comment on judicial remarks. A spokesman said arrests in relation to the home invasion had been a result of an operation involving the Child Protection and Investigation Unit, Criminal Investigation Branch, and Tactical Crime Squad. I'm sorry, this female officer that said, she was unable to get, it was too hard. She was unable to get statements because it was too hard with her roster. I really would hope it wasn't it wasn't an officer from Child Protection Unit or Criminal Investigation Branch. If I was a betting man, I'd be saying it's someone from Tactical Crime Squad. And you would hope it is, because seriously, if this is the standard from someone from Branch, from the CIB, well, standards have dropped, and Lord help us all. Contacted by the ABC Police Union President, Levers said the case highlighted the current overworked and understaffed nature of policing, which, yeah, I got to agree. Okay, you're overworked, understaffed. This is a serious job, but serious job. You can't let things like this slide. And if they're overworked and understaffed, this all comes back to the hierarchy, how the commissioner has allowed such a drop off in in police recruitment. The numbers continue to fall week after week. The police service still see the amount of people leaving. The numbers aren't changing in that respect, and the numbers coming in aren't getting much better. Except we're getting people from overseas. It's great. So judges in the community need to remember that frontline first response operational police do not prosecute cases in these matters. That is up to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution who prosecuted the case, not the police. The DPP is also woefully underfunded and under-resourced. Lever said the police involved were working in very difficult circumstances. I'm not even sure what he's talking in riddles here. He's talking about frontline police, but Child Protection Investigative Unit, CIB, and tactical crime, they're not exactly, I suppose they're frontline in a way, but they're not general duties who are out there on the job. They're Child Protection and CIB, their job is to investigate these things. They're not out there just responding to being the first responders when the call goes out. When someone calls triple O, they're not the ones on the front line going out to these jobs, being called by. Crikey. Seems like he's making a bit of excuses. The home invasion occurred after a group of youths had been seen hanging around the park in Red Bank and had demanded money from a local woman, according to the judgment. Later that day, this woman was in her house near the park and heard people talking nearby. She turned off the lights and closed all the curtains. She heard people jumping over the back fence and saw a flashlight on a porch in the yard. A group of boys entered her house through the laundry door, which she saw her brother open. Judge Larry said the woman stated she had sought safety in her bedroom, closing the door. Uh, Five boys, including the defendant, forced their way into the bedroom, according to the woman's account referred to in the judgment. The woman alleged one of the boys was armed with a baseball bat and another was armed with a steering wheel lock. The woman was terrified and armed herself with a knife and stood up on her bed. The boys demanded money from her and said they would break the television in her living room if she did not give them money. The crime was interrupted when police arrived at the home and the boys fled. See, those police arrived. They're the first responders. They're, they're the ones that are overworked. Anyway, the woman stated she had been able to identify five of the boys, including the defendant. The judgment said that after the police had attended her home, the complainant found the steering wheel lock under the sheets of her bed and assumed it had been hidden when police arrived and the offenders fled. Photos were taken of the item some days later. It was not seized nor subject to forensic examination. What the heck? How does that happen? There was no explanation for that not having occurred. When police arrived 15 minutes later, all boys fled except for one. She said two police officers gave evidence about their investigation into the matter. She stated a senior constable had attended a neighbouring property on the night and spoke to two men. When the police officer was speaking to the men, the defendant approached him from behind and asked what was going on. She noted the constable spoke to the defendant and he confirmed his identity and stated that he had come from a house behind the complainant's property. Judge Lowry said the defendant was released and no effort was made to confirm his account. 9 months later, another police officer took over the investigation. Crikey. Failure after failure. The officer collected CCTV footage and stills and confirmed she spoke to the complainant's brother to try and get a statement. Judge Larry noticed that the officer did not bother to get a statement because it was too hard for her rosters with her rosters. She also noted the officer did not attempt to get a statement from the complainant's friend who was inside the room during the incident. She did not bother to follow up the defendant's claim that he was visiting a neighbor property at the time. The judge pointed out that the officer also knew nothing about whether the weapon located in the complaint's bed was seized or forensically examined. Precious moments. This is just one epic failure after another one. In making a decision, the judge stated there were issues around identifying the offender, but she found that the police had not undertaken enough investigation to shed light on whether the defendant was present. Police did not obtain a statement from the complaint's friend. No explanation was given for why police did not obtain a statement. Police also did not obtain a statement from one of the residents of a neighbouring property to confirm or discredit the defendant's claim of him just visiting the neighbour's property at the time and not being involved in the home invasion. No explanation was provided for this, the judge pointed out. The judge stated that she considered the explanations given for the failure to obtain these statements was entirely unsatisfactory. Oh my goodness. Sorry. I'd read this and I thought it blows my mind that there was just no explanation given for any of these things not being done. The fact that you can go forward and be prosecuting these people, charging, taking them to court, going to court to give evidence, but then you haven't got the evidence to back up your claims, and then not being able to give a satisfactory answer, explanation on to why or how, why you haven't chased, why you haven't followed up. Anyway, look, if this was just a one off of a failure of police, the problem is you take a step back, you look back and think, well, what else is happening just in this last week? I'll have a look at another story that happened just the other day. I'm not even going to forget about the shooting that happened just south of Mackay. Not a lot of information coming through. There was a man killed just the other day. Uh, Not a lot has happened except that he's produced a weapon. He's produced a firearm, and then he's ended up being shot. There was also another shooting. Well, there was a firearm was discharged. Reading this story, this is a little. I find this very hard to believe as well that police officers have done this. This story says update on discharge of police firearm. This is actually a police news on the police website. Police have charged a 17-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl following a reported stolen vehicle tracked from Oxley in Toowong to Toowong in Brisbane. The 2015 Volkswagen uh, Polo that was stolen from an Ashgrove address on February 12 allegedly drove dangerously at officers during an attempted intercept on Blunder Road. So Blunder Road's quite a wide road in Brisbane there, around Oxley. It's quite wide. So they've attempted to intercept going by this, and then the vehicle has driven at police vehicles. This resulted this resulted in an officer presenting and discharging his service firearm at the vehicle. The Volkswagen was located abandoned on Frederick Street in Toowong, and four people, allegedly from the vehicle, were located and taken in custody. I was reading this and I'm thinking I could not believe that that an officer has thought it was a good idea. Vehicles coming at you, you're trying to intercept. You could put your car in the way. Okay, you're trying to cut the vehicle off. So you've put your car in the way to try and stop them from getting through. They've driven either at you or at the vehicle, and this police officer has decided it was a good idea. I think this police officer may have been watching too many movies, decided it was a good idea to pull his gun and shoot at the child who was driving the vehicle. Now, you're supposed to draw your weapon and shoot your weapon when you are in danger, when your life is in danger, or someone else's life is in danger. I was always under the impression, I was always told that it's not a good idea to pull your gun and shoot at someone in a vehicle because you can. It's not the same as being threatened with a knife or being threatened with a firearm, because you can move out of the way. You can get cover. You can move. If someone's trying to get through, you're better off getting out of the way and letting them drive off. It's not a good idea, and it's hard to defend if you're going to pull your firearm and shoot at someone in the car. The only way you're going to be able to stop them, you have to shoot them dead. Someone's driving a vehicle and you shoot them and you injure them. You're not going to stop the car. They're not going to stop. They're just going to drive harder. Their foot's going to be flat through that floor. They're going to be ramming even more things just to try and get out of there because they're in pain. Again, I think that shows complete lack of responsibility. I think it's hard. I'd only heard of one other officer doing this, and the circumstances were a little different. And that was Officer, I think his name was Chris Hurley, the chap I was talking to once, and he was the one that was involved in. Please, I hope I got that name right. The one that was involved in the riots on in the riots in Palm Island. Mine went blank then. On Palm Island. So he was also involved some years later, presented his firearm and shot at a vehicle. Still not a great idea, and it's hard to justify, hard to defend your actions if that's what you're doing. I don't even remember how he went with defending that. Um, Look, if this was just a one-off, police pulling their firearm and shooting at a vehicle, that the incident that happened just south of Mackay, it marks the fourth fatal police shooting just within the Mackay Whitsunday police district in the last 16 months. So in the most recent was in December 23, where police allege a 56-year-old man armed himself with a large cane knife at a motel in Bowen. He was shot dead. In 2022, a 24-year-old man was shot by police in the Airlie Beach party strip after he allegedly approached officers with a knife. And a 24-year-old died after being shot following an incident near the Mackay Base Hospital. That's just in this district of the Mackay Whitsunday area within the last 16 months. Four. So and as the ABC reported, from all the data they've gotten a hold of, it's revealed that in 2022 to 2023, Queensland police shot more people than police in the rest of Australia combined. They're shooting more people than the rest of the police in Australia combined. And then they're also making mistakes that are causing young criminals to go free because they can't even do the job of gathering evidence properly. And this is, like I said, if you're looking at all these things together, this is gross negligence. We have complete failure. And I think it all goes back to when the police hierarchy started to attack the police officers from the inside, pushing away, disenfranchising good police, telling them that their processes, their beliefs, their desire to be able to protect their body, to be able to make a decision about their bodily autonomy was completely unjustified, and that police hierarchy know better. They completely shunned so many good officers. So now we see a lot of good officers, a lot of experienced officers walking out the door every week. And we're just continually having this revolving door and all the new inexperienced people coming in, plus the standards that have been lowered over the last couple of years just for the sake of getting numbers in. And we're seeing the fruits of this. We're bearing the fruits of this with cases like what's happening here, where evidence isn't being gathered properly. Police are just too busy, whether it is because they're just too busy and they've got a bad roster and there's just not enough staff, or whether it's just they just can't be bothered because they haven't been trained properly and they don't know what they're doing. But then we've also got more police shootings in this state than the rest of the country combined. Something needs to change. I've said before, if nothing changes, then nothing changes. It's no good for police hierarchy to just and the police union just to step out there and say, well, police are overworked. There's nothing more they can do. They're just trying their best. You have to sit down and honestly look at the way you're doing things. Otherwise, people are just continually going to be shot, killed. Investigations are going to continually be bungled. Police are going to be doing things like shooting at moving vehicles, which I'm sorry, I find it really hard to, in any scenario where you can justify shooting at someone in a car because they're driving at you. It's hard to justify. So I think we've been on this slippery slope with police for quite a few years. It started years back when standards for police recruitment dropped dramatically, okay, because the hierarchy decided that they wanted a 50-50. And that's nothing against female officers, because some of the best police I ever worked with were female officers. But if you are so insistent that you want a 50-50 ratio, and you decide, well, to get that 50-50, we're just going to drop the standards across the board so that we get those numbers up, well, then you're going to be left with inept policing, inept police. And then the other good police that are in there, you've pushed, you shunned aside because you forced mandates upon people who had the enough nous to say, no, well, we want to be able to make decisions for our bodies ourselves. And you told them, police hierarchy, commissioner, told them, no, well, we know better. We know what's best for you and your body. So if you don't want it, well, then there's the highway. And all we can do is just keep getting more people in. And it doesn't matter whether we drop our standards, as long as we have bodies, as long as we have numbers. And we're reaping the consequences because this is the thing that our police leadership have done. I said before about how if you do not have good leadership, well, then you're going to see failure across the board. Our leadership are failing us. Our government leadership are failing us. Our police hierarchy, the police leadership are failing us. And we, the people, are paying the price with inept investigations and more shootings than any other state and territory in Australia. But hey, what would I know? I was just a baggy ass senior constable. That's just my opinion. Thanks for listening to the senior. Thanks for listening to the slippery slope.
Here comes the sun, dancing on the moon. Here comes my baby in the distance. I can smell a sweet perfume. Can you see the stars? They're dancing to a tune. I know my baby, she's waiting in the distance and singing her own tune. I'm still in love.